Very much. Appreciate it.
How y'all doing today?
Yeah, hope you're doing well. I'm Anthem. This is Logan. I'm the CEO of Anthem Gold. So we are a gold cryptocurrency organization, and Logan is our CTO. So we're here to talk to you a little bit about the future of money, which we see as being purpose. So just to explain that a little bit, money is violent currency. So really up until Bitcoin for thousands of years, in order to get more money, you had to steal, lie, cheat, collude. All these things were really what led you to more money. And so ultimately, it really culminates down to violence. And so that's something that I think is really important to appreciate, because we're moving to an age where currency is becoming all purpose-driven, so utility-based. So what is the purpose of this currency? And that's really what blockchain enables for us. So to expand on this a little bit further, it's important that we understand what the core central messaging system is today. And it's called the SWIFT system. So tens of thousands of transactions get sent daily through all the big organizations that you know, from commercials, advertisements ad nauseum, banks, insurance companies, clearinghouses, brokerage, depositories, exchanges, all of the finance, insurance related industries all clear through the system. And it's interesting because only about half of the transactions are actually financial based. The rest of them are all different security messages or other just notes to each other, basically other messages. So it's important to understand this is the core legacy system, and the problem ultimately is that money is centrally transmitted. And the problem is that these central systems, are humanly colludable. So, we hear about this all the time. Token, government fines of billions or tens of billions of dollars of fees in certain cases, and we hear about cases like this one. I mean, this is pretty absurd. You have the FDIC suing banks because of banks manipulating their own lending rates to one another, which is referred to as LIBOR in the fancy finance parlance of London interbank rate. So it's crazy. It's a crazy world. We hear about this all the time. And just to kind of go a little bit the difference, if you want to kind of explain a little difference between the mathematical, that'd be great.
So decentralized systems are honest mathematically, especially you see here on the left, we have the Ethereum node system kind of actualized in a picture here, where that people are incentivized, our miners are incentivized to be honest. You're disincentivized to be bad actors within the system. Here you can see a heist on the Bitcoin chain. Every wallet, every private key that was pushed in this transaction to heist, you have small blips, you have larger blips that will allow for the push through of UTXOs to hide this money that they stole. Moving forward, we have here a quantified blockchain transaction. This kind of just gives a rundown. Every frame would be a block here. Thank you. The circles are the transactions, and then the arrows are the outputs. You can see that it gets big. It gets larger as the Merkle tree grows, as the world states show. We can see a kind of flickering lights here. If we could take it down, it's a little easier to see. But you can see that as the Merkle tree grows and the world state continues, it's an ever continuous chain of these transactions that for a long time people thought they were anonymous, they weren't able to be transmuted, but you can see today that you can trace almost everything that has gone through the ledger. Again, these frames and these transactions just connect and coincide with one another into the next block and transmute continuously. So as AGLD, the automated immutable visual recording of this gold, we're going to move through the kilogram bars, being purchased and certified through manufacturers, securely shipped to our private vault. It's the Houston bunker, found in Montgomery, Texas. And then as the gold bars are tested and documented by a certified individual at the bunker, it's going to be our second point of verification. And then users are going to be able to view and verify their gold using their HERC proof of verification blockchain that we are continuously building as we move forward. Mm-hmm. Auditing of AGLD gold bars will be super simplified through the process of staking your HERC tokens and then viewing the assets in the HERC network. If you look at the distributed network through the validity and verification of the tokens, there will be gamified audit in our system.
Yeah, I think that that's actually a really important aspect to touch upon, because the audit function traditionally for any startup business is the worst of all fixed costs, because it's a sunk cost, it's expensive, it takes specialized skill. GAAP, FASB, which is the best standards that all publicly traded companies have to adhere by, only typically audits about 1% of transactions, usually 6, 7, 8, 9 months after the fact. And really, you're having a fallibility of individual human beings doing individual audit functions. So instead, there's a swarmification that takes place with the Anthem Gold function. And so it's something that takes this individual and turns it into a bunch of individuals validating pictures ultimately, and doing it in a way that's actually fun because they get paid for it, and it kind of is like games that they're already playing anyway in their spare time, and they get paid some value on that. So,
and as we are in the blockchain space, we want to decentralize this essential audit function, and we're going to be able to do that with our platform, human intuition, picture recognition, or hyper. It will allow for people to be incentivized to use our platform that don't care about gold, they don't care about global value chain, and they want to see a reform within the system.
Yeah, yeah. And making auditing accountable, 100% triple book entry accounting, the power of cryptocurrency and blockchain, at least public blockchains, and making it fun. So making people not have to care about gold or any physical good or auditing or any of this. They want to play games that, puzzle games or maze games or word type games, any of these types of games, action games. We can, through gamification and AI and having different functionality built in of people already doing these affirmating type actions so that are already fun for them, stimulating for them. So we can integrate this, using
and as we
crypto.
move forward, a consensus mechanism, about 85%, will allow for a prediction model to be made within our platform. Obviously, the network will have to grow, and we'll be able to grow through that as time goes on.
Yeah, so one of the key aspects of dealing with gold in general that we're solving here is how do you know that the custodians of the gold aren't going to go off and steal your gold? Because it's the chronic problem that it's the end of the gold story every time historically, and the only way that you can solve this is through 100% total surveillance at all times and being able to provably have those files in a way that's immutable, and that obviously is blockchain and cryptocurrency. So it allows us to be able to store files in systems like storage, for example, STRJ, different other IPFS systems. I mean, you can touch on a little bit of that, but basically having a cryptographic hash that, in fact, and basically having all of this, all these files that are immutable be provable. So if any of these files ever got corrupted or any of the systems that the files were stored in ever got corrupted, then they could be replicated, and the greater community would have assurance knowing that these were the same files, and it provides assurance knowing that this metal's real. So it's
specifically
powerful.
through data sharding as well, touching on the decentralized storage network, we'll be able to take the immutable data audit files of our video file feed, split them up into data shards, and then have them randomly accessed through storage, SIA coin, whatever the least cost routing blockchain protocol it calls for at the time. It'll kind of build out into this platform of the miners moving the network and allowing for this audit function to thrive as this game ecosystem.
So here we can go through some of our advisory board members, our 6 advisory board members. So Joby Weeks, who's chief marketer of Bit Club, which I think is the largest mining conglomerate now. Bill Barhide, founder of Albright. Bill just announced a big announcement this week, $16 million investment from Foxconn, which is the maker of the iPhone. So at Money 2020 in Las Vegas this week. So I had lunch with him, and he was excited about our progress too. Andrew Yashkuk, so it might be familiar to a lot of people in the room. He's the head of product development at Factum, formerly head of hardware lead at storage, which is a solution that we plan to have factor in our solution pretty heavily. Michael Turpin, who also had a conference in Las Vegas that I attended last week, Coin Agenda, founder of MarketWire, PR company that I met my co-founder, president wife, Cynthia. Dominic Zenas, who I saw this week in Vegas, he's co-founder of Wings, and he also was head of business development at the first ever ICO, which was called Mastercoin. So Dominic's been very helpful, and then Steve Dack. So I know Tracy knows and very well. So Steve is the lead dev of CryptoKit, which is now called Jax, and really well-respected developer in the space. So.
And then to go into our key management, we have Anthem and myself, his wife and co-founder, president of the company, Cynthia Blanchard. Dave Miller is our chief creative officer, really bringing in the marketing and art deployment. Brian French, director of vaulting at Anthem Vault. Very important that a lot of this information and camera technology, especially with the vault tech and how important it is to store the gold. He's working very hard and diligently to make sure that we have closed circuit cameras, that everything is secure, that everything that goes into the vault is what it is, what we say it is, through our verification platform.
Yeah, Brian was formerly at Verizon. He's actually my brother-in-law. He was at MCI, WorldCom. After the Bernie Evers debacle, he was put in charge of helping to teach their HR about best practices with compliance and doing things in an ethical way. So we think he's perfectly placed for the role.
And luckily, with our general counsel and our chief strategy officer, they're making sure that everything's on point. As I'm sure you all know, legal and compliance is a big part of the game these days, and making sure that token generating events are happening swiftly, securely, and making sure that every participant is safe.
Yeah, Paul has a lot of experience with the SEC, and he was at Winstead in New Orleans on the Freeport-McMoRan team when Freeport-McMoRan was based there instead of Arizona. And then he also served as general counsel of a company that I sat on the board of that was a New York Stock Exchange market company that evolved into a NASDAQ Russell 2000 company while we were on the board, and Paul was general counsel. So he brings a lot of great experience to the legal team.
Okay. And we're going to open up for questions, open questions. Just one of them? Yep, yeah, for sure.
And that's a great board, so congratulations. And it looks like you guys are doing some forward thinking. I came in a little late, but what I'm getting out of this is you're backed by gold. It's very secure. I can tell because I see it on camera, right? But my question is this. Gold does not necessarily move at a particularly good rate right now. It's kind of slow, kind of steady. That's why it's gold. And there's an argument that when Nixon took us off the gold standard that we lost something. Okay. Having said that, what is going to make this cryptocurrency outperform the gold market?
Well, we think it's going to have a premium to the kilobar spot price. So all of these gold tokens, they're backed by kilogram bar gold. So 1,000 of these AGLD tokens, each token represents a gram. So we're looking right now at a conservative price of somewhere 10 to 20% above the kilogram spot price. And so we think that there's going to achieve a premium because of the utility, number one. Number two, because the digital assets themselves can be self-custodied, just like any cryptocurrency. So that's different from other sorts of centralized digital gold representations, for example, whether that be, futures, options, or other fractional allocated centralized systems. So we think that the decentralized nature of blockchain and cryptocurrency, the transparency that it provides, which is far superior over any legacy systems, traditional futures, options, ETFs, being able to have that level of accountability. One neat feature, which I didn't really touch upon, was an a la carte, ad hoc, on-demand ability to audit. So, you tell us the bar, we have, Brian or, Brian Helper be able to go in, atomic clocks, how many fingers, real time. The bar goes into our Olympus machine, gets scanned. You can see this bar was real. It gets put back onto the rack.
So each coin is actually backed by one real bar of gold?
Each token, yeah, each token.
What's the difference between a token and a coin? I apologize for being an idiot.
Coin is a statutory term that implies a round of metal that's struck by a government mint, whereas a token implies more to like a cryptographic key, which is more like a software access key, or, for example, just a cryptographic receipt that is a representation of, say, something specific, like in our case, a gram of gold. Yeah, yes. Yeah, Bitcoin is like a cryptographic or a ledger that's represented through cryptographic receipts, basically.
I vaguely know the answer to this, but I'd like to be further educated on it. What exactly entails the security of the physical bars? How many machine guns y'all got around that?
So that's actually kind of a fun question. So if anyone wants to look it up, it's HoustonBunker.com is the URL. It's a facility that's in Montgomery, Texas. It's about 30 minutes north of Exxon Global headquarters. It's powered by 2 substations. It was built by Shanghai Shek's nephew, Louis Kung, back about 30 years ago. Today, it's a co-location facility. It's over $50 million has been put into it. 11 internet service providers are there. It's a big meet me room. It's on internet backbone, well over a gigabyte per second throughput, it's really top notch. It was built to be nuclear proof. So we have 4,000 square feet currently designated with really enough space to house all the world's gold quite easily in this facility. So it's a very secure space on its own. It's considered the most secure space in the state by Lloyd's through the largest in-state insurance writer, Higginbotham. And so we think that because of these reasons, and of course, the actual video evidence and the auditable index group of files that we're going to be applying is going to make Anthem Gold and these AGLD tokens the most valuable, most secure, most useful form of gold in the world. Yeah.
And also, too, where we're going to be housing our first nodes, our relays for this blockchain throughput. It's where a lot of the ISPs store their internal servers. Hopefully, we'll be able to work closely with them to have a continuous connection, no interruptions. Everything is building out into the test net, and then to prove our utility, making sure that there are no interruptions.
Can I exchange the coins for physical gold at any time? Is that possible?
Yeah, so what you'll be able to do is stake your AGLDs at any given moment. I think for 1,000, we're going to do it kilogram gold bars, and then you'll be able to stake them within our consensus. And we already have a drop ship platform, Amagi Metals, in which you are sending us crypto, and we send physical gold, really rounds or any precious metals to your home. So we already have that existing business model, and then we're going to map that to this platform. So you stake those tokens, and then you'll be able to receive the kilogram bar to your home.
Last question? Just had a quick question regarding the gold suppression. I'm not asking you to make any promises here, but I was just curious what the scuttlebutt around your company is regarding the effect that y'all's offering may have.
Well, I think gold suppression is a tricky topic because ultimately gold is I would say the anchor to the legacy centralized core messaging system, which is, as described, SWIFT, fiat, and all the agency debt, government debt around the world. And so I think ultimately gold is an unfortunate recipient of liquidity issues ultimately, and insolvency issues ultimately with the centralized system that really hasn't had a competitor until Bitcoin. And now Bitcoin is just millions of times more effective and efficient of an accounting system and a messaging system than SWIFT or FedWire, any of the derivative centralized systems ever could be because of the immutability and so alone. And so, I think ultimately, gold is probably going to stagnate for a while, relatively speaking to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies overall, because I think it's a victim ultimately of being tied inextricably to the legacy system. And it really is the only liquid asset, physical asset that all the central banks still hold. I mean, the only other physical asset they have indirect access to is land, but it's incredibly difficult for them to liquidate on a relative basis. So, yeah, but I think ultimately that could mean that gold remains extremely stable in terms of fiat prices, which could end up being a real benefit ultimately, because you don't have any credit counterparty risk, if you're housing gold at a non-bank custodian like we are with Anthem Gold, custodying with the sister company we spun out from, Anthem Vault, which developed the first ever fully gold-backed cryptocurrency back in July of 2014, X11 script back in the day as a prototype. So we have a lot of experience. We're vaulting it at this HoustonBunker.com as mentioned, and we have a lot of experience. We know supply chain from wholesalers to retail like the back of our hands. So it's a good question. Thank you.
Logan, Anthem, thank you very much for your time. If anybody has any more questions, you can reach out to them. Thanks very much.
Chris. Thank you. Thank you to the organizers too. We appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. Really appreciate that. Also, I wanted to also just shout out that our Anthem Gold organization has contributed $3,000 in Bitcoin through Overstock mainly, and for the Puerto Rico effort. So we're hoping to announce a little bit more about that. But if anybody has any want there, a former classmate of mine that I went to Newman High School with, that's very competent, has family there. So we're getting a lot of direct supplies. So feel free to reach out and be part of the effort too if you like. So thank you.
Food trucks are downstairs.